This week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast is brought to you by the Craft Beer Marketing Awards. The Craft Beer Marketing Awards was founded in 2019 and is the only global awards competition to celebrate and focus on the growing importance of craft beer marketing and design strategy as a key to success in standing out among other brands on the market shelf. Co-founded by Jim McCunn and Jackie De Bella, the CBMS is the only global scale marketing competition to put a spotlight on the growing critical aspect of creative marketing as key to breweries' business success. Boasting a judging panel of over 500 beverage and beer industry professionals worldwide in over 24 countries, making the CBMAS the largest awards program of its kind in the world, with well-known judges including Ralph Steadman, David Carson, Tara Nurin, Zane Lumphry, and John Cotino. Entries are divided up into 5 regions across the globe: the Americas, United Kingdom, Europe, APAC, and MENA. Many design companies and agencies are taking notice and submitting their work. The deadline has been increased to the 14th of March 2022, so do get involved if you're in this industry and you want to show the importance of your creative work to your client's business. And if you're a brewery, come and show off the fantastic marketing and creative work that you've been doing to get your beer out there to the public. The upcoming award celebration will take place the week of 2022 Craft Brewers Conference in May in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. For more information, go to craftbeermarketingawards.com.
Hi there, and welcome to the I'll Try That podcast. This week we are visiting Quantock Brewery based in Somerset, and we're going to be tasting one of their beers. But I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Joe Druitt, who is going to be hitting us with a hot off the press hop topic.
So this is recently announced, so quite literally is hot off the press, 31st of Jan, so within the last month. What would you guys say if I was to tell you that one of the biggest and most established beer brands is making a presence in London?
Well, if you said biggest, I would naturally think of Drabber's Brewing Corp in Weymouth. but in fairness, they're not the most established.
I think they're up and coming. I would probably put them in that category.
So biggest, most established Drabbers. Who are you thinking of? AB and
my
Bear.
least favourite people, AB and Bear.
Please don't hurt us, AB and Bear.
I think they're listening.
I think actually I might have heard something about this story. Is this something to do with Diageo?
That's correct.
Oh, Diego.
Yeah,
Diego.
that's it, yeah.
San Diego.
Disco. That doesn't spell it.
That's disco.
So yes,
So am I right? Tell us the story, please.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll move this along. So Diageo, yes, they have announced a £73 million investment in a Guinness Micro-Brewery and culture hub to be built in London.
Culture hub.
A culture hub.
I am going to need that
hub?
explaining
Yeah.
to me.
So by culture hub, let me just tell you a bit more about what their plans are, and I think it'll lead us into what they think about culture and what that means, because brewing culture.
We're hooked in anyway.
Okay, so they're going to be building this at Old Brewers Yard in Covent Garden, set to come to life in autumn 2023. So we're not too far away from that. And they said the development is set to create about 150 jobs for people. So this is, Old Brewers Yard has, brewed beer since 1722. So that's over 300 years of brewing. And
that's what well established means. Mate.
I was going to say, I was going to mention they've really picked a great location. It's called the Old Brewers Yard.
That's it.
It's what else could you do then? Like, you couldn't open a Greg's.
Exactly. What's in there right now?
Laundrette.
Yeah. So back in 1722, that's when Old Brewers Yard was at its peak, or it started up and things. And there hasn't been a brewery in there for quite some time. It doesn't give an exact date of how long it's been empty for. But after 300 years, Guinness is coming back, and beer is coming back to Old Brewers Yard.
So it was like Guinness had gone away. Guinness is coming back.
Yeah, in a big way.
Yeah.
But actually, Guinness doesn't really have a presence in London. Obviously you think of Guinness and you go, as in a physical brick and mortar presence.
Yeah, but also the only thing I've noticed recently, have you seen it on social media, the SH1T London Guinness? I did the spelling out because our listeners won't be offended by spellings. But someone taking pictures of the very badly poured Guinness.
Yeah.
That they can see in
yeah,
London.
yeah.
So maybe there's going to be a location here where there is at least a safe pair of hands for that.
Yes, exactly. And as we know, around the Dublin brewery, St James. Is it St James's?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Could be.
She said that with utter confidence.
Anything. Say it with enough conviction, you're all right.
That's it. So I'll give you so this might explain a bit more about what they mean by culture hub. Okay, so obviously microbrewery, quite self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But microbrewing, brewing Guinness.
Yeah.
But it's not just Guinness. We know as we did the Guinness episode that they have actually quite a few different innovations. They create small batches. They create different types of Guinnesses than the one that we're quite familiar with.
Guinai.
A gaggle of Guinness.
A gaggle of Guinai.
and that's what they've said this microbrewery in London Covent Garden is going to do. It's not just going to create, and you can't just get the standard Guinness that we know, the stout, smooth stout. They're going to do a lot of innovation and a lot of lab creation work, brews from this microbrewery.
Do you reckon you'll be able to get the Guinness 0.0 on tap?
Definitely. You'll get the core Guinness beers. You'll have the Guinness as we know it here in the UK. So the plans for this new site include a world-leading microbrewery which will produce limited edition beers and offer guest tours with Guinness beer specialists to taste, enjoy, and learn about the iconic stout, its storied history, and ambitions for the future.
Just how long is the Guinness tour going to be in this building? I can't imagine it's going to be huge or massive like the one up in Ireland.
It's huge.
Yeah.
73 million. They get a bit of bang for their buck. Obviously, there's some London property prices there, but the images of what they're planned. That's quite a big brewery.
And
it still is still a microbrewery after all.
My left foot.
Yeah, true.
If I want to go and visit a microbrewery, I want it to be no bigger than 3 meters by 3 meters.
But it's a big plot of land they're buying.
That is
this
a big plot of land.
This is a huge area in Covent Garden. This isn't just like they've got a storefront.
What is this?
A shop front.
A centre for ants?
So it's not just the microbrewery in itself and the stores. They're going to have event spaces. Obviously, it's a central hub in London. This is kind of starting to get to that cultural hub area. They want to attract business. It's going to be quite a cool space for breakout areas if you're that way inclined. Meetings.
It's going to have some music as well, I'm guessing, at some point. And
it's good.
Maybe, but I think they're going more for an
hush my mouth.
They are going more for an upsale side.
Oh, okay.
This isn't going to be like you just roll around and you turn up and it's like, I'm going to go for the Guinness microbrewery.
Orchestra, then maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe, as in...
No, really. I don't think so. They're going to go have a Guinness store where they'll sell some rare items via collaborations.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of this, actually, some bespoke fashion wear, lifestyle wear coming in.
So are they going along the lines of Supremes?
Could do.
You're like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Supreme. Hang on. Have I missed something?
Do you know Supreme
Clothing
clothing brands? So they will only brand, so you can get
Are they from the last 20 years? Because I won't know.
Yeah, so you can get Supreme will do limited edition drops on, say, 10 or 20 t-shirts, which they will brand with Supreme across them. So you can get a Supreme. They did a collaboration with North Face where they dropped something like 200 jackets with a North Face jacket with literally just Supreme across it, and they go for 250,000-300,000.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So I don't know if Guinness are going to go for that, but
could do.
I don't think it's going to have the same impact as Supreme. But
no, but the idea is that this is territory for brewers that hasn't really been brewers have done clothing for a long time.
Yeah,
Guinness has done some great clothing for a long time because I've got a couple of Guinness items. But collaborations is just something about rare, something about everything we're getting from this microbrewery is something they're trying to tap into a more premium space. They're doing.
You said upscale, you weren't kidding, were you?
No, exactly. Well, let me tell you about this then. They've got a rotating cuisine and events at a stunning open fire kitchen restaurant and 360 degrees glass rooftop space within the development.
So you said rotating cuisine.
Yeah.
Does that mean everything's on a lazy Susan and just slowly spinning while you're trying to eat it?
Yeah. Or it's one of those sushi bars where just everything moves. Running around trying to find your meals.
Yeah.
No, I think rotating in and they change up the food.
I cannot tell you how pleased I am that we got a reference into a lazy Susan. That's just my favourite name for anything I've ever heard of is the lazy Susan.
So I think this is
quite an
interesting and exciting as a beer fan. Either you don't, not a fan of big, macro beers like Guinness or whatever, but even still, this is going to be an exciting space to experience.
ITT on tour, but we've got to wait till August 2023.
Yeah, that's right.
We've also got a lot of other places to visit.
We're going to be in town for that beer festival at that point, anyway, aren't we? So
we could swing by.
Bam.
Yeah,
might check it out.
No,
whatever.
that's
Who cares?
this year the beer
That's
festival.
this year the beer festival.
Yes, that's true. But it's an annual thing.
We'll
right?
go next year as well.
Yeah,
next
exactly.
year.
I don't know. We'll see if it's any good. It might be for a load of posers.
And
I can't wait.
so this is the International Craft Beer Festival in London. We're
Yes.
talking about,
Yes,
that we
it
are
is.
going to this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the pursuit of hoppiness. This week, as Drab has mentioned earlier on, we're talking about Quantock Brewery. Few options on offer from them. We're actually tasting the last of their 2021 series, which is called Obsessed with Mosaic, single hopped pale, 4.5%. Although Drabbers, I'm glad we're talking about this brewery at this point in the podcast, because the chap who started Quantock Brewery, so they're based in Somerset, as you mentioned earlier on. The Quantocks is area of outstanding national beauty, the first ever designated area of outstanding national beauty
Lovely,
in the UK in 1956. The founder is a chap called Rob Rainey. Guess how he started out brewing beer?
Was it in the 2-bed flat in Weymouth?
No.
Making chili-infused beers.
No. However, he did start off with his first ever home brew kit that he bought from Boots.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So, I mean, Wilco's, that was 2007
Yeah.
that he started out.
People
So-
have said Wilco's is the Boots of 2021.
Exactly. Just bringing it a bit more up to date. So, in the broader scheme of things, that's not too long to have to wait for potentially award-winning beers.
Are we looking into my future?
Yeah, but basically, so his homebrew kit, he just wasn't quite happy with the quality of beer that he produced, so he wanted to go and have a look at it. He actually came from a background of being a former nuclear engineer.
Whoa, okay.
Whoa, okay.
So
He's approaching the brewing scene slightly differently to
Yeah,
the traditional like startup.
I mean,
brewers.
I haven't quite checked every beer they've ever made, but there's got to be an atomic something or other in there.
Oh,
hasn't there?
100%. It's
Well, let's just say he's pretty good at the molecular level.
This guy. Although, there's a lot to be commended on. I could list for you their awards. There were only a few in 2020. Awards, I think, maybe took a bit of a backseat over the last couple of years, as we know. But go and have a look at the list of awards. It's ridiculous how many they've got.
So actually, they've got a good precedent being set with award-winning.
Indeed. And at the risk of saying things which are somewhat cliched, they also do set out their stall, as many independent brewers these days do, saying they want to make the finest possible ales with the cleanest, freshest, best natural ingredients.
Isn't that every brewer ever in their startup story?
Almost, yes. They do. Yeah, there's something a bit more honourable to them, but who's to say we can make nicest beer? That's good. That's good.
But because a lot of those things are ultimately down. It's kind of a little bit that the beer that's going to work for you is almost just a matter of opinion, because they're going to pick, for instance, Mosaic, which is, as I understand, their most frequently used hop. So this is kind of their one where they want to say, hey, look, we are big Mosaic fans, so check this out. This is our Mosaic that we're having a go with.
Now, you mentioned Mosaic, because I want to kind of clarify. Mosaic being, because it's quite an interesting space when you see a Mosaic. I always think of it, is that like a lager, is that a beer? But actually, no, as you said, it's a type of hop. So it's a Mosaic is a US hop that was first released in 2012. It's actually a relatively new hop as core ingredients go. And it's actually an offspring of Simcoe. So, we've talked about Simcoe hops before.
Yeah.
And a lot of kind of American craft beers using that. So you'll get that, kind of stone fruit, citrus, maybe pine notes. But what you'll get with the Mosaic is maybe that nugget. What they refer to as a nugget is kind of maybe a bit more woody, maybe resiny bitterness that comes through it. So it's not as citrusy as maybe a Simcoe could be.
I just assumed Mosaic was something that was put up on the wall in Roman times, but
Actually, we'll put on the floor.
On the floor.
Yeah, on the floor. Sorry,
indeed.
that was
Yeah, very ornate, intricate.
Yeah.
But actually, it's an interesting thought, because it knowing that that it's created from something else like Simcoe, it does have that feel to it where it's crafted. It's curated. It's every single thing is there for a reason, and that definitely makes me feel like Mosaic is an appropriate name, actually.
What I quite like about these guys, and I believe it's true of another beer that we're going to taste soon. The idea is also, since 2020 doing a new beer every month, which kind of, as I think we've alluded to in the past, sometimes that kind of makes sense because also all of those best possible fresh and natural ingredients are gonna sort of perform differently depending on sort of like, you know, what year you have. It's kind of like with wine. If it's a good year for you know, a certain type of hop, as it can be for grapes, then they need to sort of respond and go, okay, well, we're going to do this beer now, and that's what we think is going to give you the best taste. But what do we think of Obsessed with Mosaic? Are we equally as obsessed?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm quite interested. They refer to it as a single hopped pale. I don't think I've heard too many ales.
No,
I always take that as just like just Mosaic, so they don't do a combination of Mosaic and Citra or Mosaic and
or that it's not double hopped. It's
beg your
all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of more where I got to because it's 4.5%. So that makes more sense that it's a pale.
I'm really enjoying this as a beer. It feels light, it feels refreshing, and it is going down easy. And it feels weird, but I can kind of tell that it's single hopped. Is that a weird thing to say?
Yeah.
But I can kind of I can identify that it is.
Hops aren't making you fall off your chair, basically.
Yeah, sort of thing. And I can go. I can appreciate the flavour, and I can go. You know what? This isn't. There's not lots coming at me, but what I'm getting.
It's good quality.
It's good quality and it's nice. I'm not going, there's not loads and loads of layers to it, but I'm drinking it and I'm going, you know what, this is consistently good. It's not overpowering my taste palette. I'm just enjoying drinking it.
I think to your point, actually, it's not like it's lacking a little bit of depth for me.
Yes, that's it.
It doesn't keep going, but it's actually what you put on your tongue. It's like face value is delicious. It's very tasty. It's good quality as they have won some awards for. But what I found quite interesting when they put on the side of the can, obviously they got put in there like tasting notes, let's say, of what you should be getting.
They're subtle, aren't they? For me, they're
mango, passion fruit, and notes of blueberry.
I would, as I said, I think that's subtle. It's probably in there somewhere, but it's juicy.
I can get the mango. I can get the mango taste, but I'm not getting the passion fruit, and I'm not getting the blueberry. I can definitely get the mango coming through, but
I associate blueberry with kind of being a bit perfumey, which I think kind of makes sense. In that it's a little bit perfumey, but not necessarily blueberry. Does that sound like I'm contradicting myself? But
no, I mean almost like a little bit herbal in some respects. Like, you know, blueberry obviously being a fruit, but it's almost like it's got something a bit different to it. I mean, I haven't heard of too many beers referred to as having a bit of a blueberry taste to it, if I'm quite honest.
I don't think I've ever heard of a blueberry beer.
Well, I mean,
another one for the Weymouth up and coming brewery to take a sample with.
Blueberry stout.
I mean, it's not saying though that. But that's one of those things where it's not going to say, it doesn't pretend for a minute that there are actually blueberries in the can at all, but it's just saying that's the kind of connotation almost.
Yeah.
But I think, it's interesting. I mean, I'm looking at the can design of this, and it's quite simplistic in its, Quantock Brewery's got this quite ornate looking tree as their like kind of pillar symbol, let's say, with a nice little underline under Quantock Brewery. So that's quite classic. That's not what you kind of normally expect from a crafty brewery. This almost feels a bit like they've tapped in something old school, but they like sort of leaned into something off the land to bring in.
Do you reckon the tree has some sort of significance?
I'm sure it does. It must do.
Yeah.
I mean, because the Quantocks are, hills, but it is like
natural
woodland as well.
Well, actually, as you said, like that
like a lot of heather, maybe.
How they've done the image of the trees, like it's trying to tap into that natural beauty of the location.
It almost doesn't. The image of the tree and the Quantock Brewery underneath doesn't really go with the background that they've got on the can. Like the image of that tree, I'm going to throw it reminds me a bit of a cider that may.
It's really funny you say that. I was about to say exactly the same thing.
It feels like there's a cider. I'm not a tree expert in any way, shape, or form, but I would have sort of sided with a tree, and that's how I feel it's coming across. Because the back of the can is the waves, and we discussed earlier about maybe
undulating
the contours of something.
Yeah, maybe it's about the hills.
Or something along those lines. But the Quantock Brewery sign just doesn't feel of the time of the can that they're trying to do. It just feels they've gone futuristic or in the future of one way and kind of in the past.
Well, you're right. If you're going to have something like a tree, that usually links back to the ingredient. Like you'll find that, as you said, in cider, olive oil will have certain types of trees as their logos and their backing of it. But you don't really find it too much in beer.
I've got a funny feeling. and I might have to do a bit of research on this for you, but I have a funny feeling that actually a tree is to do with the county of Somerset. And Somerset, to be honest, is more richly associated with cider, isn't it?
Cider, yeah.
It's a cider county for sure. That's when I think of Somerset. I think of great
Cider,
apples,
like
great ciders.
Rattler and all that.
No, Rattler's Cornwall, but yeah, Scrumpy. Scrumpy and Somerset go hand in hand, I think, for me. And that influence into Bristol, which back when I went to university and going around all the cider bars, and they're like all their own kind of versions of cider. Yeah, it definitely is an apple and cider infused county.
But it's stuff you would associate with, like Taunton, which actually I believe
it's where it's based.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's face it, Quantock are tapping into the local, like, kind of location that they're in.
Yeah, and I mean, their accreditations speak for themselves also, so recognised by SIBA and CAMRA. So, the beer
SIBA is
the Society of International Brewers Association.
That's right. I'm sure that's one word or letter more than they need. Society and association. I'm splitting hairs here, but SIBA.
Well, SIB doesn't quite make the same.
Yes.
Or IBA.
I'd go with IBA. But SIBA and CAMRA accredited.
And which CAMRA is?
Campaign for Real Ale.
Yeah, we did that. We did that in the quiz a while back, didn't we?
We did.
I'm enjoying it though. I think it's nice.
I think it's tasty.
It's also that single hop to 4.5%. I could quite happily go and have a couple of those over a few hours and probably watch a bit of rugby.
So numbers wise, on Twitter, Quantock Brewery has 3,300 followers.
That's not bad.
That's all right.
That's good.
Again, knowing they're a family-run microbrewery,
this
is pretty good. And on Instagram, they have 2,600 followers.
Yeah, again, not bad.
That's not bad.
They definitely feel like a family-run brewery. They've looking at some of their other products that they have. They're following on the same theme of the kind of the design, but different colours. They're doing some quite fun-looking.
The Ajaka beer.
That's quite
really
fun.
cool.
That Horizon-looking beer.
That Horizon-looking beer looks so much better with their tree design than the Wave one does.
Yeah.
I think it actually works.
I nearly got us that one. It was that and the Ajaka.
Well, that's their Napa, and I know someone here who loves a Napa.
Why did you not get the Napa?
I didn't. I think the shop I was in didn't have the Napa. I didn't go straight to the brewery. I went to the.
In saying that, they're like core. This must be what we're having right now, as you said. One of their mosaics, one of their core range beers, actually looks pretty good as a whole lineup.
Oh yeah.
Where we're looking at the 4 different beers. You've got a yellow, a blue, a green, and this one that we're having, which is like a pinky purple.
Yeah, I like the pub, but I mean, if it is on the shelf, it doesn't jump out at you. I'll be honest. And although I bought it. Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to market pretty hard to get old Barber.
Well, I'd like to say I'm a marketer's nightmare.
Yeah. But the trouble is, you're not going to buy the 4 beers in a row.
If you're in the Somerset area,
think bigger, Drabbers. Think gift bag.
I just know.
Gift bags,
gift box of beers,
tasting sample sets.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think actually
gullible podcast hosts.
With that white tree, it works when they're all in a row. It doesn't work with the one can.
No, I agree, and I think actually, this is family microbrewery, not best mate setting up a brewery. This is like you've got a couple of generations inputting on this.
These guys set out to make beer. They weren't going down some weird yogurt plan.
But actually, that makes a good point. Of being a family beer, this has got different generations inputting on this, so this is actually quite a very safe logo design. Where
more I drink it, more I like it.
It's a nice tasting beer. It's a very nice tasting beer. So I have never come across Quantock before. I'll be looking out for them. Obviously, knowing they're a microbrewery in Somerset, you'll probably see them in your specialist craft brewery shops, but probably not meeting in Tesco's anytime soon. Yeah.
Halfway between me and you, so maybe we'll have to just,
Is that merge at Quantock Brewery?
Obviously, but we'll cut it out before we got to this point in the episode.
No, I'll keep that bit in. And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barber,
and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter, I'll Try That podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.